Brought to you by BaseCampEd. I'm Morgan, your host of the Homeschool Curious podcast. Whether you're deep in the homeschooling world or just starting to get curious, I'm here to bring you inspiring conversations with parents, educators, and business owners navigating the wild, wonderful world of parenting. Let's get curious together. Welcome to the very first episode of the Homeschool Curious podcast. I'm Morgan, your host, and I am so excited to be kicking off this journey with you. This podcast is all about real, unfiltered stories from parents and business owners navigating the wild, wonderful world of parenting. Whether you're deep in the homeschooling world or just starting to get curious, this is your space to find inspiration, practical tips, and a community that just gets it. Today, I want to set the stage for what's to come and introduce you to me and my family. This podcast is all about authentic conversations, bold ideas, and stories that remind us we're all in this together. And just as a quick note, I am sitting here at my dining room table. It is probably not the most aesthetically pleasing, but it's the best room in the house. My office has no windows, so it's dark and sad. My master bedroom is so far from the router that the Wi-Fi was so slow. So here we are. We're just winging it here at the kitchen and dining room table. I never dreamed that I would be here as a new entrepreneur, blog writer, and now a podcast host. 12 years ago, I was living in San Diego, which I was born and raised in Southern California, and I thought I would never leave. I was climbing that corporate ladder and thought that I was living the dream. But life just has a funny way of throwing crazy curveballs at you. I met my husband there in 2014. He was stationed in the Marine Corps. And since meeting him, I have now moved 4 times. And I haven't even lived in California since I met him. So today I am a mom to 3 young boys. They're 2, 3, and 5. And we're expecting our 4th boy, and he'll be here in a couple of months. I left my corporate job this year to pursue something so much more fulfilling, and we'll get to that a little bit more later today. Most professional recruiters just kind of stumble into that career. But for me, it was always the plan. Growing up and still today, my mom is my hero, a dedicated mom who balanced a thriving recruiting career while still having a really deep connection with me and my siblings. I watched her light up matching people with their dream opportunities, and her passion sparked mine. From a very young age, I knew I wanted to follow in her footsteps. So after college, I became a recruiter, and for 12 years, I had been recruiting the best talent, diving deep into their stories to find that perfect fit. Now I'm bringing that knack for meaningful conversations to the Homeschool Curious podcast, where I'll sit down with parents and business owners to uncover the real, honest insights that shape our lives in parenting and education. I've experienced the challenges of raising kids, balancing a career, and shaping young minds. It can feel overwhelming, but sharing our stories can create connection and change. This podcast is about you, the parents going against the institutional norms, educators redefining how kids learn today, and business owners creating brands that make family life easier. If you haven't heard the term Homeschool Curious, it's basically someone interested in exploring homeschooling as an educational option, but haven't yet committed to it. It describes a mindset or curiosity to learning more about it without necessarily making the decision to pursue it. These parents might be researching methods, curricula, legal requirements, or benefits, and are often driven by dissatisfaction with traditional school, a desire for personalized education, or other factors like flexibility or family values. And that was basically me for 3 years. I just never knew how to properly coin the term for who I was. A few years ago, my husband and I only had 2 boys at the time, and I was working full-time while our boys were going to daycare. I was that mom that would drop the boys off at 7:59 so I could be on that 8 a.m. call from the car to the office, and I wouldn't pick them up until 5. Every day, Monday through Friday, repeat. We would get home and they were a little tired and grumpy, and we'd do dinner, baths, bedtime, repeat. And that was our week. And I started to feel really burned out, but also that mom guilt. And I didn't know really how to navigate how I was feeling. A few moms that I followed on Instagram started homeschooling. And at first, I just was really enjoying following their story. But then I started to really see the great benefits that their families were receiving from homeschooling. So I bring it up to my husband and I go, "What do you think about homeschooling?" And to my surprise, he was really open and accepting and actually was like, "I've been thinking about it too," which was really surprising. And I think he was resistant to ask or talk to me about homeschooling because, he does have the stable career and we move every 2 to 3 years for him. And him asking me about homeschooling would mean me changing a lot of how I do work and the boys. So to have both of us coming at it from different angles really kind of solidified that maybe this is the right decision for our family. So after we kind of had that conversation, I was also curious what my family, the direct family, thought about it. Not that like their opinion would have stopped my husband and I from doing it, but I just really value their opinion. And to my surprise, my parents, my husband's parents, my sister, who we were all went to traditional school, were all so accepting of it that it truly felt like it was the right decision. And I feel like this is a really important story to tell because it's kind of what really prompted the idea of starting a business. And I just remember the night so vividly in my head that the night my husband and I asked my parents, "Hey, what do you think about us homeschooling?" And my dad goes, "Do you remember so and so?" And it was one of his old bosses and a family friend. Well, we're all from Southern California. And during COVID, they didn't want to be there anymore. And so they decided to pick up and move to rural Maui. And at the time, both parents were still working. So they went to Maui, still working from home, and they found a few other families in the neighborhood that are like-minded. And they basically started their own mini co-op. And each day of the week, the kids would rotate going to different houses. Every parent had a different expertise and a different subject that they worked on. And this little mini co-op during COVID was thriving. That even after COVID, they still continued to do it. And when my dad told me that story, it seriously, like, I felt like my husband and I were hit by a wall. Like that night in bed, we were like, how did they find people to do that with? Like, I want to do that. I want to be able to work part-time, homeschool the boys part-time, have them go to houses of parents that I trust. And how do you find that? And of course, there's like millions of Facebook groups, but they're so big and a lot of the people don't even respond. But like, I want to pull up a map like Zillow and be able to find people. And that didn't really exist. So that truly was the night that sparked my husband and I's interest in starting our own business. Before that night, I never thought about homeschooling from this perspective. I thought it was this all or nothing type of situation. I need to completely quit my job, homeschool the boys. It's all consuming and scary, takes over my whole life. But I love to work, and part-time or not, it is part of me. And I know some moms make that incredible choice to stay home. But for me, this story's beauty that my dad told is it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I feel like this topic of mom guilt and working and people criticizing moms who use childcare, like that could be probably like its own episode, but I'm not going to go on any tangents just yet. We aren't meant to do life alone. It's about leaning into community, whether it's using drop-off co-ops or friends who share the load, or if you're lucky enough to have family down the road, pitch in together. And that is what I envision our homeschool life to look like. I haven't even started. I'm not trying to claim to be any sort of expert. My oldest son is 5, so we're like just starting kindergarten right now. But I want to raise our children around people that my husband and I respect and that could probably and maybe teach them better than we could because they're an accountant that owns their own finance or accounting firm. I want my son to learn from him. And my husband is passionate about history. Like, have the kids in our neighborhood come to our house and we're responsible for history once a week. Like, that's the way homeschooling should be. And so that night was just truly like a pivotal moment in my husband and I's relationship, how we thought about work, how we thought about just life in general. So I felt like that was an important story to tell. After a few more months of us kind of talking about how amazing something like this type of app could be, that was really where the idea of BaseCampEd truly came to life. It was a leap that my husband and I took together. We had lots of late night talks about budget, my career, how we were going to balance the needs of our boys and the needs of, paying our bills and what that meant for my job. His job is our steady paycheck, our steady healthcare. So we knew that I was going to have to make a lot of the sacrifices. And those talks weren't easy. I had to weigh my passion for work against the vision for our business. And really, my husband and I are a team. So he guides a lot of our big decisions, especially because I can't really make one. But he's always cheering me on and always offering visionary expertise. So we made the decision that I'll lead the business as the face and the builder, and he'll kind of be that silent partner in the background that's funding it for us and, truly making those big decisions and drive. But really, like, our teamwork has what's brought BaseCamp to life. From our own personal savings, we found an agency to help us develop the app. It took nearly a year, and this February in 2025, we had a fully functioning app. So it's only been about 6 months from the day that I'm recording today. We have about 4,000 families in the app, and everybody I talk to is like, that's so incredible. And in the back of my head, I'm like, why isn't there more? And I know that it's just a slow word of mouth, like, type of situation, but I cannot be like more proud of what my husband and I stand for and what we're trying to do. I also kind of wanted to go into the reasons why we chose to homeschool, because I feel like that really kind of introduces more about our family and our values. I'm not going to give you and list off a million reasons because that would be boring, but I will list my top 4. Reason 1, we move a lot. So my husband's job requires us to move every 2 to 3 years. And I love that we get to see and experience new cities, but it's taken us far from our family. And I love the idea that we, right now, with no school commitments, we can easily jump on a plane and visit both of our sets of grandparents that are out on the West Coast. And I'll stay for like weeks on end, especially because sometimes my husband is super busy or traveling for work. And if I didn't go visit his parents or mine, like, I do a lot of solo parenting. So I love that homeschooling just kind of gives us the freedom to live life on our own terms. And as family that's like always on the move, a rigid school schedule would really hold us back. Did I mention that we move a lot? So reason 2, we move every couple of years, which basically means chaos is just our norm. And right now, while we've been moving so often, the boys aren't in real school. So it's been easy. And like, even for example, we're moving in 2 months in the middle of November. Like, if they were in a school year, we would be pulling them out and they asking them every 2 years to be the new kids in school. So homeschooling really kind of gives them that consistent safe haven of, no matter where life is taking us, school and education is home with mom and dad and siblings. And that really builds like such a strong bond between the brothers that's unbreakable. And that is like what I hope for. Reason 3, we're saying goodbye to the one-size-fits-all education, especially for my young boys. I see the spark in each one of them, and I love that I can craft their days to fit their individual needs. Traditional schools can be really tough on little boys, and I love that, we've only just started kindergarten, but I love that we do math spread out on the carpet every single day. And, sometimes he starts to lose his focus and we do a little workout PE at home and then we get back to it. And he'll do letters like upside down on the couch right now. Like, that's just how little boys learn and how they operate. So I love that they don't feel constrained to sitting in a circle time or sitting behind a desk. They can kind of just be themselves. And when life starts to feel a little heavier, or we're traveling a lot, or someone's sick, let's take a week off, take a few days off. whatever it is, pick it up back on the weekend. Like that flexibility is such a perk. Then reason 4, I'm hoping my boys find a passion that they can pursue wholeheartedly and still have time for family. And what's inspired this reason is truly my own experience of dancing as I grew up. I was the captain of our high school dance team. I danced locally for our studio and did competitions, and still saved time on Sundays to dance for our church group. And it consumed my whole life. And while I absolutely love that I have that background, it left very little time for family. So homeschooling really gives my boys the chance to do and chase what they love, whether it's music or sports or something entirely different, and they still have time to hang with us. So, as we look into the future, I picture our lifestyle being homeschool in the morning until about noon or 1, and then let you take off and do what you want to do. And then if you don't get home till 8 or 9 at night because you're doing practices or whatever it may be, like we've seen each other and we've spent that morning together. Or another thing about like very young children that go to grade school, they come home exhausted. They could get home by 3 or 4. They're hungry, they're tired, they're grumpy. Like then asking them to go to martial arts or go do this and that, like it's just too much on their little bodies. So I love that, starting in a couple more months. My 5-year-old isn't quite ready for like all of the structured sports and activities quite yet, but in a few more months, I know that we're going to find something that he loves and he'll be able to do it in the afternoon. And that's his way of also socializing and meeting friends that are his age. Another kind of like funny story, I don't want to go off on too many tangents, but I was on the work call a couple weeks ago and I was talking to a lady in Texas, and she goes, my son was a part of a homeschool basketball group, and it was such a big group that they were able to compete against the local school districts. But all of the school district teams hated playing this basketball team because they were so good. They had time to practice during the middle of the day when most children were at school. They used private coaching one-on-one. They had so much extra free time and they loved basketball that their team was just the best. And I love that story because that's like truly the magic of homeschooling, like education that fuels your dreams, but also keeping us connected. I would love to hear your why for the reasons that you make big decisions in the comments below. Every family is so unique, and that's like what I'm so excited about in this podcast. Each week I'll interview different parents and educators and business owners that have their why, and I'll share authentic stories tackling big questions like, how do you balance work and family? What's your education setup like today? Would you change anything if you could? Like, that's what I want to get into with each of my guests. I am so excited for the journey, and I have some amazing guests lined up. Through this podcast and my BaseCampEd app, I am building a community where parents, educators, and business owners share stories and grow together. That's a wrap on my first episode of the Homeschool Curious podcast, and I am so thrilled to be here on this adventure with you. Stay tuned for my first guest. This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. If you made it all the way to the end, you are amazing. Thank you for listening and your support. Let's stay connected, and here are my tasks for you. Subscribe, like, and share on your favorite podcast app or on my website, BaseCampEd.com. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at BaseCampEd App, and go download BaseCamp if you haven't already. Leave a comment and spread the love.